We are live.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's council meeting. Council, first off, I'll be looking for an adoption of this evening's agenda.
Your worship, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the agenda as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Daigle.
I'll second that, your worship.
Thank you, Councillor Martins. Council, I will be doing the same as I have in the past. We'll go through our list that's been generated, and just to see if any or comments, I will start it off with Councillor Daigle.
No comments, worship.
Councillor Friesen.
I'm fine, thanks, your worship.
Thank you, Councillor Tolles.
All good, thank you.
Councillor Martins.
No comments.
Councillor Pluis.
Nothing, thank you.
Councillor Bowditch.
Nothing, your worship.
Thank you. This motion's been moved by Councillor Daigle. It's been seconded by Councillor Martins. All those in favor? Council, this motion's passed. Next, I'll be looking for an adoption of the minutes from our last meeting.
Your worship, I will make the motion that we adopt the minutes of the regular council meeting held April 20th, 2020.
Thank you, Councillor Bowditch.
And I will be happy to second that, your worship.
Thank you, Councillor Toll. Same thing. We'll go through the same list. Councillor Daigle.
No comments, sir.
Thank you. Councillor Friesen.
I'm good, thank you.
Councillor Tolles.
Looks good to me, thank you.
Councillor Martins.
Nothing to add, thanks.
Councillor Pluis.
No questions, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bowditch.
And no questions either, thank you.
Thank you. This motion was made by Councillor Bowditch. It was seconded by Councillor Tolles. All those in favor? Council, this motion's passed. This evening, we have one proclamation. At this time, I'll invite our very own Ed Fonger from the City of Swift Current. He's our OH&S coordinator, and he's here to proclaim May the 3rd to the 9th, 2020 as NAOSH Emergency Preparedness Week. Welcome to Council, Mr. Fonger.
Good evening, your worship, members and city council. Thank you for having me. Emergency Preparedness Week and NAOSH is an annual event that takes place each year during the first full week of May. This year it is a week of May 3rd to 9th, and it's an opportunity to encourage the citizens of Swift Current and across Canada to act and plan to be better prepared to protect themselves and their families during an emergency. Emergency Preparedness Week is a national awareness initiative that has taken place annually since 1996. This year, we are experiencing something that we have never experienced before. We are now living in an unprecedented time, with COVID-19 pandemic. Our focus has been the pandemic. However, we cannot forget about the other emergencies or disasters. Disasters such as flooding or severe summer and winter weather can have devastating long-term consequences. These natural disasters have been increasing in size and intensity in the past years. Emergencies can occur anywhere and at any time, and for this reason, basic emergency preparedness starts with everyone. In an emergency, first response agencies focus their efforts first where the need is the greatest. That is why the individual emergency preparedness is so important. Emergency Preparedness Week encourages citizens to take 3 simple steps to become better prepared and face the range of emergencies that may occur. These steps are: 1, know the risks. Knowing what the risks are to your community and your particular region can help you better prepare. 2, make a plan. It will help you and your family know what to do during and after an emergency. 3, get an emergency kit. During an emergency, we all need some sort of basic supplies that we may not be able to have without power or tap water. Be prepared to be self-sufficient for a minimum of 72 hours in an emergency. Prepare the 72-hour emergency kits, and these kits are very simple to make from items you may already have at home. Another one you can do is sign up for Swift Current Alerts, available for registration on the city website. And remember, we cannot warn you if we can't contact you. Install the Sask Emergency app on your phone is another avenue you can take. And for more information and helpful tips on getting prepared, people can visit the getprepared.ca website, as well as Saskatchewan.ca disaster prevention and preparedness websites. There's a lot of information on these sites that will help you get better prepared. For NAOSH Week, I would like to take a moment, just basically what it stands for. It's North American Occupational Health and Safety Week. That was first launched in June of 1997, and it's a continent-wide event spanning the countries of Canada, US, and Mexico. The goal during North American Occupational Health and Safety Week is to focus the attention of employers, employees, and partners, and the public on the importance of preventing injury and illnesses in the workplaces, at home, and in the community. NAOSH Week now has been renamed to Safety and Health Week. Safety and Health Week is an annual occupational health and safety celebration every year in the first full week of May, just like the Emergency Planning Week. And it offers us a time to reflect on what we do every day, both individually and collectively, and to continually improve our workplace health and safety. Safety and Health Week focuses on the importance of preventing injury and illness in the workplace. At the city, we've worked hard and continue to prove our level of safety. And over the past 6 years, we've strived to eliminate the hazards before starting any job or task. We've invested time and resources into our employees so they are properly trained before they do any kind of task. It helps reduce injuries and illness. Our employees understand what's needed to complete the task safely, take pride in knowing what they're doing, and that they will go home to their families injury-free at the end of the day. Our management and employees continue to create safe work and safe home cultures. The city encourages our employees to take this mindset of safety home with them as well. Again, it does not start at 7, nor does it stop at 5. As the province starts to reopen this week, this is a reminder that health and safety begins with all of us, and that we need to continue to be diligent doing our part to prevent a second wave of this pandemic. We must continue to follow our work plans and procedures to ensure that we have created the safest and healthiest workplace environment possible to get the work done while keeping our people safe. If you'd like any more information about Health and Safety Week, please come see me at Swift Current City Hall, or you can go to the www.naosh.ca for more information. Thank you, stay healthy, have a safe week and a safe year. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fonger. At this time, I will open it up for council and go through that same list to see if they have any questions or any comments they'd like to add. Councillor Daigle.
Yeah, I just want to thank Ed and his team for all they do for our city to make sure that we are prepared for the emergencies that will come, and we never know when they are. And being prepared is very, very important. And I think they're doing a fantastic job. So it's just hats off to you guys. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor.
Councillor Daigle, Councillor Friesen.
I really have nothing to add. Councillor Daigle said it all very well. Thank you very much, Ed, for all that you've done.
Thank you, Councillor.
Councillor Friesen, Councillor Tolles.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think you made a very simple message to us that we all have to pay attention to. Know the risk, make a plan, and be prepared. And those things I think are simple, whether we're dealing with blizzards or viruses or fire. I'm sure the fire chief would say the same thing. So thank you for that message that we need to be reminded of. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Councillor Tolles. Councillor Martins.
Thank you, Worship. I echo all the same sentiments. I mean, I appreciate all the work that you and your team do, Ed. And just a quick question. When some people say, when you're talking about, having emergency preparedness and being prepared if an emergency would strike, in some cases, people might see that as a very large task. But as you mentioned, you potentially could have a lot of the necessary items available right around your household. Can you give like a quick example of what that would look like?
Let's say we lose water. Have yourself water for 72 hours. A simple flashlight, extra cash in case the power goes out. There's no banking machine. At least you'll be able to pay for gas, or if you need to get supplies. Just very simple things, like they say with the COVID, like 1 week of food. It's very simple, basic stuff that may be around. If you need more information, there's lots of information on those websites.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Ed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Martins. Councillor Pluis.
Nothing to add, Your Worship. Thanks, Mr. Fonger, for the presentation. Very well done.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bowditch.
Yeah, I have nothing further for Mr. Fonger. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you. Well, thanks so much, Mr. Fonger, for being here today. Very good information for all of our residents. Much obliged. At this time, as the Mayor of Swift Current, and at the request of our council, I will hereby proclaim May the 3rd to May the 9th, 2020 as NAOSH Emergency Preparedness Week. And we do have a copy of that declaration here at City Hall that we'll be getting to immediately. Thank you so much, Mr. Fonger.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good night.
Thank you, Council. We have no delegations for this evening, nor do we have any public hearings. So that'll move us right into items for action. At this time, I'll call upon Ms. Hoffner to go through the 2 sets of accounts that we have.
Thank you, Worship and members of Council. Enclosed are the General Revenue Fund disbursements for the period April 13th to the 17th, 2020. And I respectfully recommend that $1,160,000 $109,134.29 in disbursements be approved. Included in that is a payment of $107,000 for payroll benefits, payment of $68,000 for taxes collected on behalf of the school supports, payment of $686,000 for the purchase of energy, payment of $17,000 for tendering costs associated with the North Hill Reservoir Pump Station upgrade, payments of $13,000 and $12,000 for the purchase of chemicals that will be used by the water treatment plant, payment of $30,000 for costs associated with upgrades to the Kinetic Park Barn 5, payment of $13,000 for the purchase of fire hydrant inventory for the Public Works Department, payment of $31,000 for costs associated with the downtown streetscape rehab, payment of $35,000 for costs associated with road rehabilitation, Chinook Pathway expansion, CPR weir inspection and design, water distribution upgrades, Omen School site redevelopment, Chaplain Street Bridge rehab, and Lift Station 2 relocation and design.
Thank you, Ms. Hoffner. Council, I will be looking for a motion.
Your worship, I will happily move the recommended amount of disbursements related to the period of April 13th to the 17th.
Thank you, Councillor Pluis.
I'll second that, your worship.
Thank you, Councillor Daigle. Same thing, we'll go through the same list to see if there are any questions, and I'll start off with Councillor Daigle.
No questions, your worship.
Thank you, Councillor Friesen.
No questions, your worship.
Thank you, Councillor Tolles.
No, well explained. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Martins.
No questions, your worship.
Thank you, Councillor Pluis.
Nothing at this time. Thanks, your worship.
Thank you, Councillor Bowditch.
Nothing there right now, your worship. Thank you.
Thank you. With this motion is moved by Councillor Pluis. It's seconded by Councillor Daigle. All those in favor? Council, this motion's passed. Ms. Hoffner, please continue on with the second set of accounts.
Enclosed are the general revenue fund disbursements for the period April 20th to May the 1st, 2020, and I respectfully recommend that $1,257,531.57 in disbursements be approved. Included in that is a payment of $306,000 for payroll benefits, payment of $267,000 for the purchase of energy, payment of $22,000 for power costs and city facilities outside our franchise area, payment of $60,000 for natural gas costs, payment of $53,000 for the purchase of chemicals that will be used by the water treatment plant, payment of $13,000 for costs associated with upgrades to Kinetic Park Barn 5, payment of $10,000 for costs associated with window upgrades at the Stockade Building at Kinetic Park, payment of $89,000 for costs associated with the Windscape Irrigation Project, payment of $54,000 for transit and recycling depot operations, payment of $13,000 for the purchase of replacement garbage carts, payment of $62,000 for the purchase of underground cable inventory for the Light and Power Department, payment of $29,000 for landfill operations, and a payment of $113,000 for garbage collection.
Thank you, Ms. Hoffner. Council, motion, please.
Your worship, I'll move that we accept the recommendation to approve $1,257,531.57 for the period April 20th to May 1st.
Thank you, Councillor Friesen.
I'll second that, your worship.
Councillor Martin, same thing. We'll go through if anybody's got any questions. Councillor Daigle.
No questions, your worship.
Thank you, Councillor Friesen.
I'm fine, thanks, your worship.
Thanks, Councillor Tolles.
All good. Thank you.
Councillor Martins.
No questions, your worship. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Pluis.
Nothing to add. Thanks, your worship.
Councillor Bowditch.
No questions, your worship.
Thank you. This motion was made by Councillor Friesen. It was seconded by Councillor Martins. All those in favor? Council, this motion's passed. Next, we'll go to the report. It's regarding the 2019 Western Canada Summer Games, and I'll hand it over to Mr. Marcus, please.
Thank you, your worship. In 2015, the city of Swift Current put together a bid to the Saskatchewan host committee of the 2019 Western Canada Summer Games. And a small delegation of observers attended the 2015 games in the RM of Wood Buffalo in Alberta. In late 2016, we appointed our co-chairs, Melissa Shaw and Mark Benesh. And in 2017, the host society began with 4 people and eventually grew to almost 2,000 people in order to accomplish hosting the games. Attached is the final report from Denise Barbier, the games manager, regarding the hugely successful Western Canada Games hosted by the City of Swift Current. The report highlights and recognizes the board of directors, our exceptional volunteers, city council and staff, sponsors, community partners, the Chinook School Division, and the province of Saskatchewan for their contributions in hosting the largest event to be hosted in Southwest Saskatchewan. It is a complete report on the story of the games, from the athletes to the venues to the ceremonies. It also highlights the legacies left behind, the economic impact, the budget, and the legacy fund. A link is also provided within the report for a 6-minute professionally made video that captures the spirit of the games and is fun to watch. Also attached is the economic impact model provided by Tourism Saskatchewan. At this point, the city clerk will show the video.
Sorry, just bear with us. There we go.
Well, certainly was a busy time. And lastly included in the proposed Western Canada Summer Games Legacy Fund Distribution Report, approved by the Legacy Committee and then approved by the Board of Directors. The last approval needed is for the distribution of the Legacy Fund in the amount of $155,061 by City Council. Highlights of the distribution include donating purchased items like the hurdles and carts and other equipment to the high school athletics program, allowing for the development of local athletes to compete at higher levels. Funds for various coaching clinics throughout Southwest Saskatchewan, donations of other equipment to various schools throughout the Chinook School Division. Also, there are contributions to the redevelopment of Ford Field and the Parks Play program. These legacy distributions will ensure that sports and the games continue to live on in the Southwest region for many years to come. We respectfully recommend that Council receives and files the Games Manager's final report for the 2019 Western Canada Summer Games and the Economic Impact Model, and that Council approves the Legacy Fund distribution as attached for the $155,061 as recommended by the Legacy Fund Committee and the Board of Directors.
Thank you, Mr. Marcus. Council, we will need two motions for this. I will be looking for the first one first, please.
Your worship, I will move that council receive and file the general manager's final report, the game's final report for the 2019 Western Canada Summer Games and the economic impact model.
Thank you, Councillor Tolles.
I'll second that, your worship.
Thank you, Councillor Friesen. Council, I'll go through the same list to see if any councillors have any questions or comments. And I'll start it off with Councillor Daigle.
It's incredible to think about how busy we were last year, and with the Western Summer Games that were just around the corner last year at this time, and how quiet it is now. So it's there's such extremities there. But I just want to congratulate everybody that was involved with the Western Summer Games. I know we all had a part of it, a small part of it. And I think we should be very proud of what the accomplishment was and the legacy that we have. And you know, I'm just thrilled with this report. I think it's a great one. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Daigle. Councillor Friesen.
Thanks, your worship. I guess too, I'm just so happy. It was great to see that video and remember some of the highlights from last year. And I would just like to say a big thank you to those that led in the games last year, the board of directors and Denise and some of those others who really put in a large part of the or helped to make it so successful. So thanks to those people in particular and to everyone else who had a part in it.
Thank you, Councillor Friesen. Councillor Tolles.
Thank you, your worship. The video certainly brought back some great memories for us, and that was a really busy time. I had the pleasure of working with Denise and her team for about the 2 years planning and 1 or 2 meetings a month. It was just an incredible experience. So congratulations to a great team that worked really hard, led by Melissa and Mark and all of the board of directors and all the people that were. I got a chance to meet some great young people, some young Canadians, and some amazing volunteers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tolles. Councillor Martins.
More of the same for me, your worship. It certainly was a very well done video, and it was a nice kind of highlight package of everything that took place during the Western Canada Summer Games. And you know, and it goes without saying, you know, it's none of that would happen without all of the incredible volunteers and organizers and everything else that put it all together. So I mean, it was a fantastic event last summer, and it was great to see the highlight package. And other than that, I have no other comments towards it.
Thank you, Councillor Martins. Councillor Pluis.
Yeah, thanks, your worship. Thanks for the report. I really don't have anything new to add other than just to say, you know, fully agree with everybody who's made comments already. Thank you, your worship.
Thank you. Councillor Bowditch.
I feel the same way. It was a wonderful time and a great job by everybody. Thanks, your worship.
Thank you so much. Tim, please extend on to Ms. Barbier how grateful we are to her and her team for the great work that they've done. And on behalf of our council administration, thank you to the entire Southwest that put on what I believe was the best Western Canada Summer Games that ever happened. So thank you for that. This report's moved by Councillor Tolles. It's seconded by Councillor Friesen. All those in favor? Council, I'll be looking for the second motion.
Your worship, I will also move that council approve the legacy fund distribution as attached for the $155,061 as recommended by the Legacy Fund Committee and the Board of Directors. Thank
you, Councillor Tolles.
I'll second that one, your worship.
Councillor Friesen. Same thing. I will go through the same list to see if you've got any questions or comments. Councillor Daigle.
No comments, your worship. Well done.
Thank you, Councillor Friesen.
Well, I guess, you know, what is better than having a legacy, especially that touches so many different organizations. It was a great list, not just in the city of Swift Current, but throughout Southwest Saskatchewan. So, I mean, that just is the icing on the cake with respect to this Summer Games. I'm so happy that the legacy came through and there was a little bit left that we could provide to all of our groups and organizations.
Thank you, Councillor Friesen. Councillor Tolles.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I agree that Legacy Fund will do a lot of good for a lot of people. And it's just great that we had a successful game and could pass that along to the people who need it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Martins.
I agree with Councillor Friesen and Councillor Tolles. I have nothing in addition to add to that. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Pluis.
And nothing to add. Thanks, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Bowditch.
Same here, Your Worship. Nothing to add.
All well said. Moved by Councillor Tolles, seconded by Councillor Friesen. All those in favor? Council, this motion's passed. We'll next go down to our next item for action is to do with our master plan paving stone construction contract. And I believe this will be going to, is it Mr. Jones?
No, that'll be me, Your Worship.
My apologies. It's going to Mr. Minkin. I didn't turn the next page. Please go ahead, Mr. Minkin.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. This report deals with the 2020 Downtown Master Plan Paving Stone Construction Contract. In 2018, the City of Swift Current's Planning and Growth Development Department completed a downtown master plan and a Centennial Market District concept plan. These plans were developed to continue to build on the city's vibrant downtown while creating consistency and connectivity throughout the downtown core. Each year since, the engineering department has transformed a downtown block using the designs in the downtown master plan. The work plan for 2020 is to continue revitalizing the west side of the 100 block of First Avenue Northeast. This will complete this block with the modern downtown design. The Rempel Centennial Plaza portion, or the Rempel Plaza portion of the Centennial Market District, will also undergo a revitalization to enhance the already lively Market Square in accordance with the Centennial Market District design. The City of Swift Current issued a request for quotes for the installation of the paving stone for the downtown projects mentioned above. The RFQ was sent out to 3 local contractors. Dunright Contracting Limited was the sole submission. Dunright Contracting completed the previous downtown paving stone projects with a high quality of workmanship and in a timely and safe manner. The fee for construction services submitted by Dunright Contracting is $143,828, including PST, excluding GST. This is within the capital budget amount allocated for these 2 projects. It is therefore respectfully recommended that the downtown paving stone contract be awarded to Dunright Contracting Limited for a total amount of $143,828, including PST, excluding GST, and that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to sign the 2020 downtown paving stone construction contract.
Thank you, Mr. Minkin. Council.
Your Worship, I would like to make the motion that we accept the downtown paving stone contract that has been issued to Dunright Contracting Limited for the total of $143,828. including PST excluding GST. And that yourself, your worship, and the city clerk be authorized to sign the 2020 downtown paving stone contract.
Thank you, Councillor Bowditch.
I'll second that, your worship.
Thank you, Councillor Degg. Same thing, we will go through and make sure that to see if any councillors have any questions of Mr. Micken in regards to this. I'll start with Councillor Degg.
Yes, your worship, I've certainly been pleased with the work that has been done already in the city the last year or so. I think yeah, I agree. It's of very high quality and it certainly looks nice and should last a long time. So I'll certainly be in favor of this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Degg. Councillor Friesen.
Nothing to add, your worship.
Thank you, Councillor Tolles.
I'm good, your worship. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Martins.
Nothing to add, your worship.
Thank you, Councillor Pluis.
No comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bowditch.
Nothing to add, your worship.
Thank you, Mr. Micken. This motion was made by Councillor Bowditch. It was seconded by Councillor Degg. All those in favor? Council, this motion is passed. Next up, I'll hand it over to Mr. Solberg, please.
Thank you, Your Worship, and good evening, members of council. This report deals with a discretionary use for a daycare center at 406 Cheadle Street West. The city has received a development permit application from Natural Wonders Early Learning Center for a change of use at 406 Cheadle Street West. The applicant is proposing to develop a daycare center of approximately 8,000 square feet on the second floor of the existing building and fenced play yard on the west side of the property. This location is located within DCC1, which is a direct control central downtown district, which allows daycare centers as a discretionary use. Under the city zoning bylaw number 24, 2014, any proposed discretionary use requires approval by council resolution. Additional procedures, including a public hearing, are also required to ensure council considers whether the proposed development conforms to the bylaw site regulations and development standards, will not be a source of nuisance or endanger the public, and will not impede the orderly development of the surrounding property. The applicant has proposed opening a daycare center at 406 Cheadle Street West and will be renovating the property as illustrated by the supporting documents I provided and plans from the development permit application, which is shown as a Schedule A. The development permit application will be reviewed by the Planning and Development Division, other city departments, and external agencies on the suitability of the proposed development. In consultation with the city clerk, the schedule for the additional procedures to consider a discretionary use would be as follows. Public notice of council's intent to consider the discretionary use will be mailed to all assessed property owners within a 75-meter radius of the proposed development site and advertised in the May 14th and 21st editions of the Southwest Booster. This notice will also be posted on the city's website. The public hearing will be held during the June 1st regular council meeting. And due to the current public gathering restrictions and online meeting format, members of the public who wish to give comments will be asked to provide written submissions to the city by 12 noon on May 27th. Any submissions received will be provided as a report for information to council during the public hearing. Finally, council will make its decision at the June 15th regular council meeting. With that, Your Worship, I respectfully recommend that notice of council's intent to consider a discretionary use in a DCC1, which is a direct control central downtown district, be given at this time for the proposed development of a daycare center located at 406 Cheadle Street West, being lots 13 to 15, block 86, plan K5486, as shown on Schedule A.
Thank you, Mr. Solberg. Council.
Your worship, I will make a motion to approve Mr. Solberg's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Martins.
I will second that, your worship.
Thank you, Councillor Tolles. Council, I'll go through the same list to see if you have any questions at all for Mr. Solberg. Councillor Degg.
It's great to see some more development in our community. I'll be in favor of this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Friesen.
All good, thanks, your worship.
Councillor Tolles.
All good. Thank you, your worship.
Thank you, Councillor Martins.
No comments, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Pluis.
No comments, Your Worship, other than to just remind the public that you have till May 27th to get written submissions in if you'd like to be heard in the public hearing that we will be having on June 1st. Thanks, Your Worship.
Good reminder. Thank you so much, Councillor Bowditch.
Nothing further, Your Worship.
Thank you. This motion was made by Councillor Martins. It was seconded by Councillor Tolles. All those in favor? Council, this motion's passed. You have the floor, Mr. Solberg.
Thank you again, Your Worship. This report deals with a proposal to rezone lots being 240 to 380 Aspen Drive. The City of Swift Current's policy on rezoning R1 districts to R1A districts allows for the rezoning of properties fronting a common street in order to facilitate a change in front yard setbacks from 9 meters in an R1 to 7 meters in an R1A. Persons wishing to have the property rezoned from an R1 to an R1A are required to distribute a rezoning petition form to all residences located on the same side of the block as their home and collect signed approval from at least 2/3 of the property owners. The city's received an application from the owners of 270 Aspen Drive and has confirmed that the rezoning petition is valid. 12 of the 13 properties in the area to be rezoned supported the proposal, with the one property owner not being able to be contacted. The attached Schedule A shows the proposed rezoning of 240 to 380 Aspen Drive from R1 to R1A, single detached dwelling residential district. Following the required 2 weeks of advertising, a public hearing will be held. With that, I respectfully recommend that notice of council's intent to consider amending zoning bylaw number 24, 2014 be given at this time for the proposed rezoning of 240 to 380 Aspen Drive, being lots 2 to 15, block 14, plan 83 SC 05874 from R1 to R1A, single detached dwelling residential district as shown on Schedule A, and adjust any adjacent district boundaries as needed.
Thank you, Mr. Solberg. Council.
Your worship, I'll make the motion that we accept the general manager of planning and development's recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Bowditch.
I'll second that, your worship.
Thank you, Councillor Friesen. Same thing. We'll go through the same list to see if there's any questions or inquiries of management in this regard. I'll start off with Councillor Daigle.
None here, your honor, or your worship, sorry.
Okay, I like being called that too, so thanks. Councillor Friesen.
Nothing, thanks, your worship.
Thank you. Councillor Tolles.
All good, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Martins.
Nothing to add, Your Worship.
Thanks. Councillor Pluis.
Nothing here. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bowditch.
Nothing here, your worship.
Well, thanks so much for bringing this report forward, Mr. Solberg. It was made by Councillor Bowditch, seconded by Councillor Friesen. Council, all those in favor? Well, this motion's passed. That gets us through our items for action for this evening. And it brings us down to, I know it's our favorite time, it's to do some bylaws. So at this time, there is a bylaw, and it's to establish uniform mill rate. And I'll call upon the city clerk to present the first motion.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by Councillor Pluis and second by Councillor Daigle that Bill number 1, 2020 be introduced and read a first time.
Council members, are you in favor of the first reading? Please indicate with your hand in front of the camera.
Bill number 1, 2020 be introduced and read a first time this 4th day of May, 2020.
Madam Clerk, do you wish a second reading?
Yes, Your Worship, I do. Moved by Councillor Pluis and second by Councillor Daigle that Bill number 1, 2020 be given a second reading.
Council members, are you in favor of the second reading?
That Bill number 1, 2020 be read a second time this 4th day of May, 2020.
This bylaw is now open for discussion. At this time, I'll call upon Councillor Pluis.
Thanks, Your Worship. This first bylaw this evening just deals with the municipal mill rates. They're kind of interesting and maybe has escaped me sort of what the definition of these things is year after year. And I find myself always going back and sort of refreshing myself. Taxation, while maybe simple to some, to simple people like myself, is a little bit more complicated. So I always go and find myself having to check this out. But a mill rate is simply just, it's the amount of tax that's payable per dollar of the assessed value of your property. So we have two things that we talk about when we talk about mill rates. We have the municipal portion of it, and the municipal mill rate portion is established by City Council. It's established when we pass our budget. And then we also have the responsibility of collecting and passing along the education tax in Saskatchewan. The mill rate for that is not set by the city. The mill rate for the education portion of property tax is established provincially. We levy that through the municipal taxes and simply pay it over to the administrator of whatever the education authority is in that case, whether it be the Catholic school divisions or the province for the public portion. Anything else from our administration team that they want to add on to that, please feel free.
Hearing none, I think you did an excellent job of sharing that. Thanks so much, Councillor Pluis. Madam Clerk, do you wish to have 3 readings of this bylaw?
Yes, I do, Your Worship. Moved by Councillor Pluis and second by Councillor Daigle that unanimous consent be given to read Bill number 1, 2020 a third time.
Council members, are you in favor of giving Bill number 1, 2023 readings at this meeting? Madam Clerk, please proceed with the motion for the 3rd reading of this bylaw.
Moved by Councillor Pluis and second by Councillor Daigle that Bill number 1, 2020 be given a 3rd reading and finally passed this 4th day of May, 2020.
Madam Clerk, at this time we have another bylaw to look at, and it's to establish the mill rate factors. At this time, I'll call upon the City Clerk to present the first motion.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by Councillor Pluis and second by Councillor Daigle that Bill number 2 of 2020 be introduced and read a first time.
Council members, are you in favor of the first reading?
That Bill number 2, 2020 be introduced and read a first time this 4th day of May, 2020.
Madam Clerk, do you wish a second reading?
Yes, I do, Your Worship. Moved by Councillor Pluis and second by Councillor Daigle that Bill number 2 of 2020 be given a second reading.
Council members, are you in favor of the second reading?
That Bill number 2, 2020 be read a second time this 4th day of May, 2020.
Bylaw is now open for discussion. At this time, I'll call upon Councillor Pluis.
Thanks again, Your Worship. Again, find myself going back to the books and trying to figure this out for myself every year, just as a refresher. Once we determine sort of what the amount of taxes that we need to collect from the municipal side, at least during our budget, we have to go this next step, which is determining the mill rate factors. And basically, if you want to consider sort of our taxation as a pie, what we're doing here is trying to divide that pie up. The pie doesn't grow or shrink as a result of our actions in this step, but we simply are trying to determine the proportion of tax revenue that each property class will pay.
Thank you, Councillor Pluis. Madam Clerk, do you wish to have 3 readings of this bylaw?
Yes, I do, Your Worship. Moved by Councillor Pluis and second by Councillor Daigle that unanimous consent be given to read Bill number 2, 2020 a third time.
Council members, are you in favor of giving Bill number 2, 2020 3 readings at this meeting? Madam Clerk, please proceed with the motion for the 3rd reading of this bylaw.
Moved by Councillor Pluis and second by Councillor Daigle that Bill number 2, 2020 be given the 3rd reading and finally passed this 4th day of May, 2020.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have another bylaw to look at this evening, and it's to establish a special levy for the funding of the long-term care facility. I'll call upon Madam Clerk to present the first motion.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by Councillor Pluis and second by Councillor Daigle that Bill number 3 of 2020 be introduced and read a first time.
Council members, are you in favor of the first reading?
Bill number 3 of 2020 introduced and read a first time this 4th day of May, 2020.
Madam Clerk, do you wish a second reading?
Yes, I do, Your Worship. Moved by Councillor Pluis and second by Councillor Daigle that Bill number 3 of 2020 be given a second reading.
Council members, are you in favor of the second reading?
Bill number 3 of 2020 be read a second time this 4th day of May, 2020.
Bylaw is now open for discussion. At this time, I'll call upon Councillor Pluis.
Thanks again, Your Worship. This is a bill that comes forward every year, or at least every year recently. I think for all of our terms so far, at least it's come up every year. This one is establishing funding for our long-term care facility. So it's something that's applied to all tax cards, all properties throughout the city. And it's a special tax in this case. Again, like I said, to pay for our portion of the cost of construction for our regional long-term care facility, known as the Meadows. 2020, this tax year, is our 5th year of a 30-year deal, which was an interest-free repayment agreement with the province. So very favorable for the citizens of Swift Current. And as you probably recall, and many folks in our community will as well, this was also the funding model that we used for funding the construction of our regional hospital as well. Obviously worked out pretty well, and I think pretty fairly for all residents of the city. And again, we just rolled that same model into long-term care funding. So nothing new here, Your Worship. It's the fifth time this particular one has come up, and it will come up another several times probably after you and I are no longer on council.
Thank you so much, Councillor Pluis. Madam Clerk, do you wish to have 3 readings of this bylaw?
Yes, I do, Your Worship. Moved by Councillor Pluis and second by Councillor Day that unanimous consent be given to read Bill number 3, 2020 a third time.
Council members, are you in favor of giving Bill number 3, 2023 readings at this meeting? Madam Clerk, please proceed with the motion for the 3rd reading of this bylaw.
Moved by Councillor Pluis and second by Councillor Day that Bill number 3, 2020 be given third reading and finally passed this 4th day of May, 2020.
At this time, we have our final bylaw to look at, and it's to exempt the 2020 assessment of certain properties. And I'll call upon yourself, Madam Clerk, to present the first motion.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by Councillor Pluis and second by Councillor Day that Bill number 4, 2020 be introduced and read a first time.
Council members, are you in favor of the first reading?
Bill number 4, 2020 introduced and read a first time this 4th day of May, 2020.
Madam Clerk, do you wish a second reading?
Yes, I do, Your Worship. Moved by Councillor Pluis and second by Councillor Day that Bill number 4 of 2020 be given a second reading.
Council members, are you in favor of the second reading?
That Bill number 4 of 2020 read a second time this 4th day of May, 2020.
This bylaw is now open for discussion. At this time, I'll call upon Councillor Pluis.
Thanks, once again, Your Worship. Again, this is a bylaw that comes up every year. So while we're dealing with the taxes for the city of Swift Current, we also need to deal with those properties that we are exempting from the collection of tax within our community. Now, I've said it lots of times before, Your Worship, that I don't believe that the city's responsibility is necessarily to provide social programs to folks in our community, that other levels of government have that mandate, and I think do it very well. What we can do, however, Your Worship, is find those things that we think are adding benefit to our community, make our community a particularly good place to live, and we can look at their property tax cards for those organizations that are doing that work in our community, whether they're a nonprofit or a charitable organization, and say we want to help out in whatever way we can for the good work that you do for all the citizens of our community. And we routinely do that for these same organizations over the course of the years. And just a sampling of those, Your Worship, would be our local SPCA, the Sask Abilities, Southwest Crisis Services, the Salvation Army. One that has come up in the media actually in the last couple of years is Southwest Homes, where we exempt property taxes in our community. And many communities, Your Worship, choose not to exempt those. And as a result, we have, I think, a very good system. In fact, I think in many ways we lead the province in that particular area. And that's something that I'm very proud of during our term on council that we continue to provide. So just again, a small sampling of the very good organizations who do good work in our community who we can help to support. Thanks, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Pluis. Madam Clerk, do you wish to have 3 readings of this bylaw?
Yes, I do, Your Worship. Moved by Councillor Pluis and second by Councillor Day that unanimous consent be given to read Bill number 4 of 2020 a third time.
Council members, are you in favor of giving Bill number 4, 2023 readings at this meeting? Madam Clerk, please proceed with the motion for the 3rd reading of this bylaw.
Moved by Councillor Pluis and second by Councillor Day that Bill number 4 of 2020 be given 3rd reading and finally passed this 4th day of May, 2020.
Thank you so much, Madam Clerk. That gets us to our bylaws for this evening and gets us all the way down. I did ask if any of our councillors had any comments they wanted to make, and I do have Councillor Tolles. Please go ahead, Councillor Tolles.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to highlight and congratulate a citizen who has now become a published author in the city of Swift Current. Just recently, a book called Chalk Dust. Now, this is a retired teacher, former teacher, principal, administrator, consultant, working with the Chinook School Division for a number of years. The book Chalk Dust, for those of you who are not as long in the tooth as I am, might remember what this is, the old chalkboard eraser. And the book entitled Chalk Dust is Memoirs of a Prairie Teacher. And it's just stories and anecdotes, some of the things that happened while she was teaching in Swift Current and in other places around the province. But she spent a lot of her career here, still lives here. And I just want to congratulate. She also does work with the library, does readings and workshops in writing. She worked with the Prairie Quills writing group and was at our council a couple of years ago reading to us during that week of we were recognized that. And so the name is Diane Miller. Anybody who is interested in reading a wonderful book called Chalk Dust, get a hold of me. I'll get you in touch with her contact information. It's a really good read. I picked it up last week and I read it real quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tolles. Congratulations to Diane. At this time, Council, I'll be looking for an adjournment of this evening's meeting.
Your worship, I will make the motion to adjourn tonight's council meeting for Monday, May the 4th.
Thank you, Councillor Martins.
I'll second that, your worship.
Thank you so much, Councillor Bowditch. Council, are you in favor of adjourning this evening's meeting? Have a good night, everybody, and please continue to stay safe and keep continuing to maintain social distancing. Have a great week, everybody.